HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business, whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing. Guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com, and while Audible.com has thousands of audiobook titles, and you probably know that, what you may not know is all the other content they have. So we're offering you a free trial. You can go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth and explore. Find the content that's there, see what resonates with you. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Over the past several years, the Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast has gained recognition as a great resource for small business owners, sales professionals, business leaders of all kinds. And that is really because of the guests. These are people who have expertise in a particular area of business, and they join me to share their expertise with all of you. That way, you can get the answers you need. You can find out who's out there who's really talented and good at what they do, so you can connect with them, see what books, worksheets, you name it. There's just all sorts of good coming out of this podcast, and today is no different. My guest today is Jeff Davis. Jeff is the founder and CEO of Molio Inc., a venture-backed creative and media analytics agency famous for building brands on YouTube with capabilities to also originate, co-create, and validate new brands. Thanks so much for joining me today, Jeff.
Diane, it's a pleasure to be with you.
It is a pleasure to have you here, and we're going to be talking about YouTube, which I have to tell you is such an interesting topic for me because it's one of those things that I play with, but I'm not really sure that I am doing what I could be doing to really maximize it. So While I know the listeners are going to get a lot out of this, I'm looking forward to getting a lot out of it as well. So not
That's a
to,
lot of fun.
yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's the one thing that has been, since my departure from Procter and Gamble, we've spent, more than a decade now on the YouTube platform. So it's kind of ironic that it's been, that platform launched in 2006 is now quite an old platform, ironically, but still one that I think has major impact for how you create awareness and trial for products. So I'll look forward to talk to you.
Yeah, definitely. And what everyone says is video is the thing. And so while YouTube has been around, and my understanding is that for the longest time, YouTube has been like the second most searched site on the internet after Google.
That's correct,
So,
and
right?
that is still a fact. Yeah, the second most used search engine, people don't get that, is YouTube, behind, of course, Google, and all of it owned by Google. And so what I like to say, if you don't have at least a channel, if you don't have some content that is searchable with the right words, et cetera, you're foregoing the second most used search engine in the world.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And I think people might have sort of grown up with this idea that unless you're doing a how-to video or like showing someone how to take a washing machine apart and then put it back together, which is what my husband uses it for, that you don't need to be there. But that's not really true anymore.
Yeah, definitely not. In fact, if you take a look at the most significant growing trends, I haven't seen this now for a few months, but it's probably still holds true. How-to videos are just a major growing piece. All of several categories, including beauty and skincare and all of that, those are major categories.
Mm.
And then if you look at the educational components, and educational being a very broad topic, but if you just take a look at Khan Academy or the number of sites on there that are just geared for educational learning, I joke around, you could get a PhD from YouTube and it would be more valuable than a Stanford or Harvard degree because the content is so incredibly rich.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're probably right about that because it's practitioners teaching what they know. So you're getting it from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think is like the biggest mistake that business owners make when they're building a brand on YouTube?
That's actually an easy one and kind of ended up being one that has been the case for some time. People are starting to figure this out, but one of the biggest mistakes you can make is having content designed for another platform, even another digital platform, Instagram, Facebook video, and then just assuming that, you can just repurpose that to YouTube. And the reason why I say that is that in general, we found, we were one of the first consumer products. So one of the famous parts of my story, having served, a couple of decades at Procter and Gamble and then leaving and then joining the startup world. And my first company was a company called Orabrush Inc., a Orabrush tongue cleaner. And it was this crazy cool product that was patented from Dr. Bob Wagstaff. And he had tried to sell it to P&G and he had tried to license it to Johnson & Johnson. And it was a tongue scraper. 90% of bad breath comes from bacteria on your tongue. And he had created a really great product to remove that bacteria from the tongue. And he had tried to go about it, marketing it with traditional means. One of his last failed efforts was an infomercial where it just failed miserably. And he ended up meeting with a couple of young guys here in Salt Lake City, Utah, Jeff Harmon and Neil Harmon. And Jeff was just one of these guys that really was an early guy on YouTube and was he knew all these insides and outs. And so we ended up launching this product on YouTube. I was the angel investor and eventual CEO of Orabrush. And the cool story about Orabrush, it's in 2017, YouTube recognized the 10 most iconic ad moments on YouTube from the 2005 launch of YouTube. And Orabrush was one of those 10. Now, you would have Diane, you may not have recognized Orabrush, but you would have recognized the other 9. It was always Like a Girl campaign. It was the Jeff Gordon Pepsi campaign. It was the, Kyrie Irving Pepsi campaign with Uncle Drew. I mean, they were just these really iconic YouTube long form campaigns that people were starting to figure out that maybe a 15-second or a 30-second or a 1 minute was not the best way to create awareness and trial for your products and services. So we ended up becoming one of the 10 most iconic ad moments. And it was really great because this original, how to know if you have bad breath video shot in a pool hall in Provo, Utah in 2009. We were definitely one of the first ones to begin to try and do that. And the case study for Google is that Orabrush was the first consumer product to be commercialized on a global level just using YouTube advertising. And so that was our learning, and that was our core roots. And that original video, by the way, so today it's not such a surprise to talk about a 2-minute video, 1 or 2 minute video, but back then it was. And by the way, our original video was 5 minutes. So, and we were getting unbelievable engagement and people clicking through. We were picking them up on YouTube, promoted video at the time. This was before TrueView skippable format, the one you can skip after 5 seconds. This was just promoted video.
Yeah.
And promoted video became live on YouTube in June of 2009. We shot this video in August of 2009, and kind of the rest was history. We just rode this initial new platform, to glory. We ended up building that brand, shipping it to online and offline to 25 different countries, and sold it to Dentec, the floss pick oral care company. Yeah, and that's when I knew we had something. I knew we were doing something differently, especially for my traditional Procter & Gamble, building brand framework. And so I was quoted, I think, in Ad Age, I think at the time, where I said, start with digital, start with video, start with YouTube. And, all my P&G friends were laughing, of course, but, today no one's laughing. We were early, we were first, and it's a pretty good place to start today. Start with digital, start with video, start with YouTube. And so one of the questions, to answer your question directly, long-winded answer around that is, what happened to a lot of people is they were taking their original content and they were trying to just repurpose to YouTube. And YouTube is not, YouTube's a platform which I love because you go there to view and look at something. And then the advertising generally today is it's the TrueView skippable format. You can skip after 5 seconds. And so we created a real playbook of how you do that. And so one of the mistakes people make, Diane, is that they try and just repurpose content created for other platforms onto YouTube, and then are surprised that it may not convert particularly as well as a Facebook video or something on Instagram. And the truth is that, we talk about it at Molio, at my digital creative agency, that you have to design content assets for the right platforms. And our method, we call it the Molio method, the integration of the right content against the right audiences, against the right KPIs. So it's really this integration of how you take the right content against the right audiences. We always like to start off on YouTube with long form video. And the reason why we do that is because of the amount of learning we get. You learn so much. You can view where they're dropping off, where you have higher peaks of viewership. You can tweak and play around, and we, most people are worried about video because it's not malleable, or it's you have a big upfront cost, et cetera. We look at it as it's the best way to launch and get market research and really figure out your messaging, your pricing and your offers. We never have a linear script. We always have various pieces we're testing, and we do that on YouTube. And then once we get it locked in and are sure what content resonates with what audiences, then generally we move to other platforms and begin to test that on Facebook, on Instagram. We've done over the top stuff with Amazon or streaming. Once we get it dialed in, Then it's a matter of reach and frequency and staying within the range of what you're trying to achieve for the KPIs on those other platforms.
That's so interesting. So you sort of do it backwards, right? I mean, from the way people are doing it.
You got it. It is. In fact, it's Diane. You have a experience like me. When I first launched the Molio method, and we got talking about it, because I was talking with a lot of traditional marketers like us. I called it the reverse marketing model. Today we call it the Molio method, but I originally called it the reverse marketing model because of exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
We were starting out in reverse and going to long form video on YouTube on a digital platform before we would ever actually build and then scale the campaign. So it would start with digital, start with video, start with YouTube, learn, and then scale. And that's why we called it the reverse marketing model, which is now affectionately the Molio method.
Yeah, right. It's so interesting. So if I'm understanding you about taking content that was made for another platform and putting it onto YouTube, that sounds to me like that would include taking your podcast, creating an audiogram, and putting it on YouTube.
Yes,
Right?
I think so. I think so. And especially if you look at the proliferation and the audiences that are flocking to podcasts, I would argue exactly the same thing. You really want to think about this medium, and especially where you can have, audio with visual. Why wouldn't you think differently about that?
Right. But if you're not going to, and you're only going to have and I'm sort of pushing on this, sorry guys, but for me, because there's been so much conversation around, no, you got to have it on YouTube. You got to have it on YouTube. And so you go through all these gymnastics to do it. And I'm thinking, seriously? There's nothing to watch,
Yep.
And people listen to podcasts when they're doing something else.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's true. Certainly true for me.
Wow, I got to tell you, that's really liberating for me.
But I guess the other thing I would just add to that is whether it's a podcast or whether it is a short or long form piece of content, what are you doing to optimize it for the YouTube platform to take advantage both of the search engine capabilities as well as the very rich targeting and placement opportunities?
Okay, well, yeah. So which I think is something that most people don't think about because we don't know how.
That's right. I would really agree with you. And honestly, most companies that come to us today, like our classic referral in is people that have got something going on, product or service or even digital apps on Facebook or Instagram, right? Because it's easier and kind of easier funnel to create there, but they just have no clue. And they know they should be on YouTube, but they just don't have a clue how to do it. And honestly, it's a lot of our referrals in. What can we do? And people that come to us with an already fairly defined range of metrics on Facebook or Instagram, we often can very much then build out a full funnel strategy on, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and others. We're also finding some very interesting traction, both on awareness and performance marketing with Pinterest. We're big fans lately of Pinterest, depending on your category, but can be very, very effective. Just a quick example, Celestial Teas out of Boulder, Colorado. That's one of our clients that we've been with for some time, and they had a 50th year anniversary of launching their herbal teas, and we ended up finding some really great traction and awareness on our methodology for how we integrate platforms against an overall performance metric. And YouTube may have a higher cost, lower conversion. Facebook may have a lower cost. You basically knit together a contribution to margin against an overall performance metric. And we found that with Celestial Teas, we had great traction on Pinterest as part of that marketing mix. We were heavy on YouTube, heavy on Facebook, Instagram, But we added in some of the some streaming and added in some Pinterest and had some really good success with that.
It feels like, I mean, what I always say to people is you got to know your audience and you got to know how they consume information and give it to them in that format, whatever it is, right? We can't force people to take our content the way we want to provide it to them.
Yes, you're exactly right. And one other thing I would add, just for context on the mechanics of YouTube, is that, you know, the TrueView skippable format, which is one that we love. We gave a lot of input in Orabrush at the time to the development team there at Google, that, you know, place a premium not on forcing someone to watch 15 to 30 seconds before they can get to their content, particularly on a platform like YouTube, where people go there to find it, right? They go to find it. So putting a barrier in of forcing them to watch a 15 or a 30 is not a good strategy. And so that's why we love the TrueView skippable, that, you know, you can skip after 5 seconds. And what I love about people, I always say the most valuable impressions in the world today still, I said this like 10 years ago, or I guess it was 7 years ago when we introduced TrueView skippable, the most valuable impressions in the world are YouTube impressions, because an impression on YouTube is 5 to 29 seconds of viewing the video for which you don't pay anything. So you're bidding on that impression and you don't pay for that impression until you hit 30 seconds. And then you pay for that bidding price of what the cost per view was. So I love it as a brand building and performance building platform for that reason. And so therefore, if you think of that format, it places a significant burden on good content, because if after 5 seconds it's not interesting, if you can't hook someone, if it doesn't make some sense, they're skipping. And or if you haven't targeted properly, right? So today, if you normally have targeted properly and the data are accurate, then you can, you know, have a higher propensity for people to click through and look at something. I always find it funny. People say, "Oh yeah, I skip all the time. I never watch it." And I say, "Well, you're the anomaly then, because, you know, it's a $60 billion ad platform that someone's watching it."
That is so interesting. Okay, so when you talk about using LinkedIn to build a brand, I want to make sure I have clarity here. Are you talking about the videos that people create or the ads that they place on the videos, or a combination of both?
Well, so, and we were talking about YouTube, right? Not LinkedIn.
I'm sorry.
YouTube, right?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to make sure I'm on the right platform. So no, for YouTube, I'm talking about, so you have obviously organic views, right? So if someone, again, second largest search engine in the globe, if someone just searches, you know, how to build brands, or talks about how selling success, you know, your book might, you know, your recent book, Succeed Without Selling, may come up on that search, and they can go and they can look at something. So you have organic search, and you have, but I'm talking about paid media. So this is paid media when I'm talking about the 5 to 29 seconds, and you're bidding on that platform for, you know, you end up, as our media team at Molio, for example, we have a hypothesis, or we have some previous data that we're benchmarking off of, and it may be women 25 to 35, you know, who have incomes of X, who are in this region of the country, who have previously watched YouTube content of these types of things, who have previously searched for these types of things. And we are then bidding on that audience, that bucket of inventory in YouTube, you know, maybe 7 cents a view, maybe 10 cents a view. If it's very premium inventory and a more narrow audience, it can be 15, 20 cents a view. And you're bidding for that, and you don't pay for that unless they hit the 30-second mark. And so it's very important that you want to make sure that you are excluding audiences you don't want. You don't want to pay for someone that's not in the audience. I always give the example, we launched as part of Orabrush, which was a tongue cleaner for humans. We followed it up with our venture-backed companies. They said, well, is this a one-trick pony, or can you replicate this? And we launched a product called Orapup, which is a tongue cleaner for dogs. Same dogs have the same problem. We launched this really cool product, or a pup, which today is owned by the Better Choice Company. We actually sold that to Better Choice Company, and we ended up replicating it. But obviously, I didn't want to be advertising to people who didn't have a dog necessarily, right? Why waste?
Right.
So I was really trying to target at people that had dogs, and that's the example of how you can tweak your content or tweak your media planning for the audiences that you're bidding for in order to be efficient and create the right performance metrics you want.
That's interesting. It sounds to me like what's so great about that this ad skipping is that then the people who actually click on it, if you've done those metrics accurately, are people who really are genuinely interested. So you're happy to pay for that click through.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And ideally, and so then if you think about the strategic way, and this is what Molio does, what we're really known for is our ability to create a strategic plan with the right content against the right audiences that is scalable. And everyone talks about that, but what do I mean by scalable? Well, it means that if you're spending, $30,000 a month or $10,000 a month, and you spend $100,000 per month, that the metrics generally hold that you've now established: the click rates, the cost per view rates, the key things that really matter: the cost per acquisition, if it's a performance campaign, the purchase intent, or awareness lift metrics, if you're doing for more upper funnel type metrics. And that's what we mean. So we're really good at dialing that in so that after a reasonable period of time for us generally, and this surprises people, because some of these big agencies, I always say Molio is the agency I created that I always wanted at Procter and Gamble and never had, because it was so frustrating. I never knew what was going on. But again, for us, $60,000 to $70,000 in media, we can dial in unbelievable levels of market research to give you confidence that that message at that offer against those personas, against those target audiences, will likely hold if you were to put 100 or 200,000 against it. And that's generally what we do. We generally have a phase one where we dial it in, get the market research, get the parameters, get the right content against the right audiences, right offer, et cetera. And then we just scale it. And scaling it for us, very different than just having to come up with $1 million budget. We do agree to a budget after that initial phase one, but then we very much just scale it week to week. It's not like, that's the beauty of it. You see it. We have performance metrics. We have dashboards that are open to our clients, and it's just literally working together then to scale the campaign, remain within the financial metrics that matter. And that's the power of the Molio method.
That is fascinating. Now, I'm going to take a sponsor break, and then I have some more questions for you. Accelerate Your Business Growth is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. And Audible.com, it's this incredible platform. I have to say there's a lot that I like about it. One of the things I like about it is that I can get different kinds of content all on the same platform. So I don't have to have a bunch of apps open or flip from one app to another. So we know about the audiobooks, most likely thousands of titles. There's also podcasts, Audible originals, guided meditations, and so much more. I think it's an incredible platform that just keeps getting better and better. And I think you will too. If you haven't already checked it out, sign up for the free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. Get the trial, explore around, see what you like, see how you're listening to things. And I think you're going to find that it really resonates with you. And, you can use it across platform devices and anywhere you are. I just really think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Today, we're speaking with Jeff Davis about using YouTube to build a brand. So Jeff, are there other platforms that people should be using in their video marketing campaigns? Like, is it valuable on Facebook? Is it valuable on Instagram?
Yeah, really good question, Diane. And I would answer that with an emphatic yes. So, while we were first in really pioneering some work on YouTube, and certainly we have, Google case studies to kind of confirm that, we were always really not so much YouTube centric as we were video centric. And in our case, long form video centric, that then you would cut into what we call content assets that then work across various platforms. So we definitely, once video became really a major offering on Facebook, we jumped on that and began to, and just like I warned that you can't just reapply a Facebook strategy to YouTube, similarly, we found that our YouTube playbook, our Molio method for YouTube and video didn't work just with Facebook. Again, very different platforms, different impressions, different cost per views, different engagement, different as you're scrolling through a feed, doing your own thing, coming across ads versus on YouTube, going to the platform to find and view something. Very different consumer behaviors. And then similarly for Instagram, while similar and within the Facebook Manager platform, very different on how you do that. So what we like to say, so the Molio methods at its core, as we begin to do market research and learn to build a brand, is generally Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And then from there, in answer to your question, what other video platforms matter or could matter depending on your product or your audiences? Look, a platform I bet against and was dead wrong, if you take a look at Snapchat, although maybe lately, they've been struggling a bit. But Snapchat, if your audience is younger, their ad platform has not evolved yet as far as it needs to, to be competing with a Google or a Facebook. But certainly Snapchat can have relevance. TikTok, listen, Dan, it's crazy. I mean, TikTok has become an amazing little growing platform with all the controversy and everything else, both organic, and then they too are trying to still figure out, what is the paid platform going to look like here? Pinterest, we do some work, that they've got a video component. And then, as I mentioned, Twitter. So those are platforms. And then I would say, by the way, that then the over-the-top type platforms, this whole streaming phenomenon where you can get involved on a Netflix or Amazon has an also very important streaming means that you can add and amplify to your media mix. But to sum it up for you, we believe the core, most relevant core for video to tell the story and create awareness and trial for your product would be, the Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And then from there, depending on product and audience and performance metric, awareness or lower funnel conversion, or, today I say you don't have to do both. Anyone that just says I want awareness is not really that bright, because you can get performance with awareness. And anyone who says they just want performance and you're just technically working on trying to convert at the bottom of the funnel, that's a mistake. You really need to have full funnel campaigns today where you're mining and finding new audiences, and then you're harvesting and creating search volume that you can convert at the bottom of the funnel. So start off with the core, and then depending on your audience, you can spread to some of these other video platforms.
That's good. Yeah, start someplace and then expand from there.
Yeah.
Will you explain to the listeners what you mean when you talk about long form video and then what you do with it? Like maybe give an example of what that would look like.
Yes, it's a really good question. So let me start off with just an example. It's a really good question, because long form, what is long form? Is that 60 seconds? If you talk to the platforms today, best practice actually for Facebook and still for YouTube, I think they still kind of recommend, 60 seconds is what they say is best practice. Now we never are at 60 seconds when we're launching campaigns. We're always longer, and long form for us generally, Diane, is anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. Generally, sweet spot 2 to 3. And what I mean by that is we create our own content, and so we actually create a number of different. If you look at a normal script for a video, it's pretty straightforward, and you just give it to a production company and they produce that script. Ours is very complex in the sense that we've got 3 or 4 different intros. We've got 3 or 4 different vignettes that we're trying to find the reasons to believe or the most important brand promises that we could make. And then we've generally got 3 to 4 different closes that we would test, even to potentially with some different offers. And we shoot all of that. And that's why our production budgets are always a little bit higher than normal, because we like to say one of our reasons to believe in the Molio method is that you rarely go back and shoot new content. Most creative agencies are incentivized that it works, and then you've got to come up with another idea. You need another idea so you can pay us more money. Because we're creative in media, we don't have any need to create more content. If it works, we'll just keep working with you on the media side. That's how we can, earn our partnership and make money. So we are incentivized to create really great content. And our history is that, our content lasts years, and I mean literally years. Mile IQ, which was an app from a founder, Chuck Dietrich, out of San Francisco. It basically tracks IRS mileage for purposes of reporting and making sure you're accurate. Brilliant app, really great idea. Was acquired by Microsoft in 2016, I think it was 2016, 2017. But we helped build that brand. That was an app. And, very importantly, that brand actually had we had very long form on that brand that then eventually got down to some very tight 30-second ads and some very tight 1-minute ads, many of which for quite a period of time, even after Microsoft acquired the brand, they were continuing to run that original content. So with Mile IQ, those assets lasted 3 or 4 years. I mean, who does that? Who can make that happen, right? And so when we talk long form, it usually starts out 2 to 5 minutes, and then over the testing, generally, by the way, 8 to 12 weeks of testing, generally, 3 to 5K of placing bets each week and then measuring. And you have to be careful because we are testing a number of things, and you can't test too much or you don't know what had the impact for the positive or negative impact, right? And that's the Molio method, part of our data and analytics that we go through to get that stuff done. And then through that, we are generally creating various content assets. We find, against that audience, this creative works. So then we have that version of the creative. Against this audience, this creative works. So we have various different creatives. We generally arrive at a core creative that provides the best message and awareness to the largest kind of audience. Because for us, it's all about mining volume, right? Most agencies, even inept agencies, can find a particular audience that might convert against a particular creative that's very narrow and small. But to get to audiences where it has financial relevance, that's the skill of a good agency. And we do it quite well. And so it's, again, over that 8 to 12 week period, we're refining down to, and almost always, if you look at some of our case studies on molio.com, you'll see that those that are there are generally 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. We have one on there, a probiotic dark chocolate. It's called Bouchard. A cool brand out of Germany. We've launched into the United States. It's called bouchardchocolate.com, where we do direct to consumer. It's on Amazon. It's periodically in Costco. And that brand, importantly with the probiotic dark chocolate brand, we ended up having a video that was over 5 minutes long. It was this really funny loop about probiotic and dark chocolate, filmed kind of in a Costco-like setting, because at the time they were launching into Costco. And it's a Facebook best-in-class model that we had more viewership on that 5-minute video than they've ever had on a long form video. And so we actually had conversion on this very long form. But in general, Diane, we land on, after optimization, something that's generally, 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. And then various assets. Of course, we then cut the best 15s, we cut the best 30s, because we know what functions well within that 2 minutes,
Right.
two or 3 minutes. And so we cut the best assets then for the media planning, for other ways to communicate on the other media platforms.
Okay. If someone is listening and they're a very small business, and so they don't necessarily have the marketing budget to hire an agency of any sort, what advice would you give them for starting to do brand building on YouTube?
Yeah, it's a great question, because this is one thing I really do love to tell startups. So Molio's clientele is both, big multinational enterprise clients. I mean, we've done work with Procter and Gamble. We've done work with, Gillette. We've done work with Tyson Foods, et cetera. But we love to actually work with startups, because that's where the history comes from. And what I like to say to people is, you don't need necessarily immediately an agency unless you're ready to go to the big time. You can open up an AdWords account and just start playing around. And when I say playing around, you can actually have a hypothesis. You can target an audience. You can load up a iPhone or Samsung, or Android phone shot video, which, by the way, happens to be better than what we did 10 years ago. In terms of quality of the video content. So you can go out and just sign up on Facebook Manager and do some paid media. Spend $100, $200 and just look at the analytics, look at the Google Analytics on the Google platform, look at the Facebook Analytics on the Facebook platforms. And you can just learn so much that would inform you about what you're doing and how you should do it. And eventually you can make enough progress that eventually you probably need some help to, if you remember back when I told you, you can almost find always some audiences that work for your financial needs, getting a return on ad spend of at least $1 for $1, and then eventually $1.50 for $1, beginning those metrics, you can do that. But to really find volume and scale, you normally are probably going to need some help. And that's where, Molio or other agencies can come in.
Yeah, got it. This is so fascinating. And speaking of fascinating, I have to ask this question. How close do you think we are to virtual reality or augmented reality marketing campaigns?
That's a great question, and I would say very close. I'll just reflect a very cool vignette story here I was sponsoring some brands at the Google Brand Lab in New York. This is almost 2 years ago now, so this is 2018. And we were hosting them, and I was trying to get the Google executive to shake up these brands I had invited from the Hain Celestial Group. In fact, one of our key clients and great partners we've had over time. They do Greek God's yogurt, Celestial Teas, Garden of Eden chips, Sensible Portions, a number of these really great quality, healthy brands. But they just weren't spending enough time, we believed, in building their brands on the digital platform. So I had hosted them in New York with Google to try and shake them up. And I told the Google executive to, really kind of tell them where the puck was going. And in his speech, ironically, Diane, he kind of ended up inspiring me more than even our clients. And he went on to present this really amazing presentation where he said that the consumer journey and the way that they were going to consume and get educated and convert. I mean, he was talking very specifically, obviously, about advertising, but it had broader implications. He said that the next 5 years was going to change more dramatically than the previous 15, which was unique because he had been with Google 15 of its 17 years. So, it came with a lot of credibility when he said that. And then I was thinking, okay, well, what's he going to say to justify that? That's an amazing statement. And he went on to say then 3 reasons: artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and augmented reality. And then he gave examples from each three of those pillars, most of which, by the way, were Google examples, right? And when he said it, it just really was true. And so when you ask that question, I think today, virtual reality is one we're doing quite often right now. And I think you'll start to see mainstream, and in terms of artificial intelligence, Diane, it's going right now. I mean, both platforms that we spend a lot of time on, Facebook and Google, have a significant amount of artificial intelligence guiding and directing those algorithms. Now, one of the values we bring as part of the Molio method is so a lot of agencies and big agencies just do what we call set it and forget it. Because of the algorithmic AI components on those platforms, we don't do that. We actually let the algorithms go, and we watch and monitor. And then this process I talked to you about, we take the training wheels off and guide it ourselves, because we find we can be more efficient with the way we do it. But there's a ton of artificial intelligence there today. And anyone, I always say, anyone that's had the Oculus glasses on or the Google glasses on to really take a look at virtual reality, it's going to dramatically change advertising, and is starting to.
That's crazy. Are there any business models where you think video marketing is not a fit?
That's also a very good question, because people think that because video requires some creative and production and some cost, most people then just default to, a Facebook or Instagram campaigns, display advertising, try and buy a little search when they have, search works when you create awareness that you have something to search for. You said it earlier, and you were absolutely right. So this is a bold statement, but again, someone that's been working for a decade with a lot of smart people on Google and Facebook and in my own company, I would answer no. There's nowhere I would not incorporate video into my brand building campaign. And as I said, even if it's inexpensive, maybe even if it's test video, I would definitely do that. We have a slide in our capabilities deck where we just show the performance, a regular funnel from awareness down to conversion and buying. And we like to show that video has a role to play in each of those stages. Obviously at the top, creating awareness about it, much better than a display banner, or something like that. If you can get someone to watch 15, 30, in our case, often longer points of video, you're creating real awareness with some frequency that eventually can get them down the funnel. We use the bumpers. They're called 6-second bumpers on YouTube, or some short executions also on the Facebook platform to remind. So you're not paying for a full view. You get these 6-second bumpers that are often around $0.01 per view. And then even at the bottom, Facebook and YouTube and Instagram have excellent ways for converting audiences that have shown interest down at the bottom with video. So we like to say, I mean, it's just not a statement. We literally walk through a funnel and show people how our methodology uses video all the way through. And it's much richer. You create stickier customers, especially if your product's good. I mean, I always say you can't sell a product twice to someone where the product's not good. But if you have a good product and you create that awareness and initial trial with video, your retention and repeat purchase is often much higher than without video.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Because I think some people feel like, they'll say, oh, yeah, it just doesn't work for my industry.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, and I would say twofold. They say that it may not work and that's easier just to do something else, or they often say that because they don't believe they can afford it. And I say you can't afford not to have a video component. If you are looking for scale and growth and quality awareness and retention, you can't afford not to do video.
Oh, I think that's a huge point. That's great. Jeff, this has been so great. I really appreciate you spending some time with me and explaining all this. I think it is critically important for business owners and marketing professionals to get their arms around this and make sure that they are maximizing video and YouTube and all those things. So thank you so much for being with me.
It's been a pleasure. You had some great questions, and it's always fun to realize you've learned a little bit over the few years we've done this, and we'd love to try and help some brands out there if they have some interest.
Well, that is great. So speaking of which, will you please let the listeners know how they can find you and anything you've got going on that you think they should know, please?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we'd love to, if anyone interested, to learn more, even do an assessment. Often we'll do an audit if it's a right match to just help people understand. We're very selective in who we like to match up with. We think it's important to match up. You can go to molio.com, MOLIO.com. Molio in Latin is to build or construct. And so we think of ourselves as brand builders. And so molio.com, MOLIO.com, and you can just ping us there and we'd be happy to get back to you.
That's terrific. Thank you. And listeners, thank you. I'm imagining you learned an awful lot because I know I did, and it is important information. And I'd like to thank our sponsor. Go on over to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to pick up your free trial of audible.com and go on an exploration. You're going to love it. If you are in a business ownership or sales position and you're struggling with that, or you just plain hate it, go on over to Amazon and take a look at Succeed Without Selling. That's my latest book. It might provide you with some ideas and techniques that you can use that will make you actually enjoy the process. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the name your price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hey friends, this is Jim Knight, former 21-year Hard Rock executive turned best-selling author and top 10 keynote speaker.
And I'm Brant Menswar, former frontman of Hollywood's Most Dangerous Band turned top 10 motivational speaker and best-selling author.
We host the how-to podcast Thoughts That Rock, where we talk to rock stars, athletes, CEOs, astronauts, and even next-door neighbors who share their expertise and opinions. Together, we tackle the most interesting and challenging topics of today.
Whether you want to learn how to become more confident, how to deal with anxiety at work,
or how to write a hit song, or use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in life,
we've got hundreds of episodes to help amp up your life and move you forward.
Subscribe to Thoughts That Rock wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out evergreenpodcast.com for more information.